Chapter 11. Henry froze momentarily before offering measured condolences. I am sorry for your loss. It's a tragic event. The Baron waved off the sentiment. Despite being the lord of the barony, he couldn't assert his authority too forcefully here, not with Henry, who was both the heir to the executioner's legacy and his brother-in-law. Life is short, and he's been called to the light of the Radiant One. He'll find peace, the Baron said coolly. To Henry, who had never forgotten the children Clara had lost, the Baron's indifference was incomprehensible. But his growing anger was only stoked by the Baron's next words. I've come to take Michael with me. Henry's temper flared. He glared at the Baron, his resemblance to Alfred unmistakable in that moment. Where do you intend to take him, my lord? Michael's home is here. He has work to do today and nowhere else to be. Ignoring Henry's indignation, the Baron called out toward the house. Michael, come out. We need to talk. Henry stepped forward, his voice firm. If you have something to say, you'll say it to me. I am Michael's guardian. I am his father, the Baron countered, his tone sharp. I have every right. You gave up that right long ago. Twice over, in fact. You have no claim here. Henry snapped, his anger burning bright. From behind him, a cutting voice chimed in. That's enough. Clara stepped forward, her tone cold as steel. The Baron removed his hat and offered her a polite nod, unruffled. For nobles, shamelessness was a necessary skill. Clara, it's been a while. I trust you've been well. He paused, then continued smoothly. As you may have heard, my eldest son has passed. Michael now has the right to inherit as the family's heir. Clara faltered. She despised the Baron's calculating use of Lincoln's death as leverage, but the truth of his words was undeniable. Her thoughts turned to Michael. Though she had poured all her love into him, there was always a shadow of longing in his eyes, a void left by the affection he had been denied. She remembered the night he left for the castle, determined to claim his place as a knight. His parting words, laced with anger and bitterness, still stung. She didn't want to hear them again. Tears welled up in her eyes, but before they could fall, a warm hand rested on her shoulder. It's all right, Aunt Clara. I'll handle this. Michael's voice cut through the tension as he emerged from the house. Michael couldn't help but curse his predecessor. The memories of the original Michael were fresh in his mind, and the sheer arrogance and recklessness of that boy made his blood boil. To be raised with care and love by relatives who took him in as a baby, only to hurl insults at them? Unforgivable. Having grown up in an orphanage himself, Michael knew the pain and struggles of children abandoned by their parents. For Michael, who now held the memories of both lives, it was appalling how the original Michael had treated Clara and Henry, his aunt and uncle. Their warm, nurturing care had been met with nothing but cruelty. Michael turned to Clara and Henry, both looking at him with worry etched on their faces. He reassured them gently, sending them back into the house. Whatever needed to be done, he would handle it himself. Michael and the Baron walked along a forest trail, tension crackling in the air. Michael knew he needed to show his anger first. Why now, father? Michael demanded, his voice sharp. You abandoned me when I was injured, sent me away like I was nothing. And now, suddenly, you need me because Lincoln is dead? When Lincoln tried to kill me, you said nothing. Don't let emotions control you, the Baron replied coolly. That's not how a noble behaves. Taking responsibility for one's actions is the duty of a noble, isn't it? Owning up to one's mistakes and paying for them. That's what it means to be noble, Michael shot back. You certainly have a lot to say, the Baron muttered, clearing his throat. He waved Ronald away to give them privacy before turning back to face Michael. His eyes softened for a moment. She really does live on in him. I won't waste time on sentiment, the Baron continued. Think of the benefits. You'll inherit everything. Lands, soldiers, title, the castle, and all of Crassus' wealth. Isn't that what you wanted? Michael's lips curled into a sneer. I used to want it. Not anymore. I don't care what happens to the barony. Go home. I've decided to live as an executioner. The Baron's composure wavered. I've prepared growth elixirs, a Pamir Highland warhorse, armor, and a longsword for you. Do you realize how much I've invested? 5,000 gold. Half of the barony's annual income. Michael's laugh was cold. 5,000? Do you think I'm a fool? He knew better. With 6,000 freemen in the barony, even with taxes and tithes to the Radiant Church, the Baron's annual income was far higher than that. and the equipment he offered, a knight's basic gear, was nothing more than an obligation the barony owed its heir. The only true gift was the growth elixir, and even that wasn't enough to sway him. As Michael's expression grew darker, the Baron's anxiety deepened. Finally, the older man relented. "What do you want?" he asked, his tone almost pleading. Michael crossed his arms, weighing his options. 3,000 gold as reparations and 100 mana stones. Deliver them by tonight. The Baron winced but calculated quickly. Given the barony's size, sourcing 100 mana stones was feasible, though it would require depleting reserves. Michael's demand was steep but not unreasonable. Why mana stones? You're not planning to forge a cursed sword, are you? Your grandfather would never allow it. A cursed sword? Michael thought, connecting the dots. So that mysterious weapon really was special. But he kept his thoughts to himself. What I do with them is my business. Will you pay? Or shall we end this conversation? Chapter 12 Grandfather. After a tense silence, the Baron conceded, though he grimaced. I can give you 50 mana stones and 500 gold. That's the best I can do. You'll have to be content with that. Michael didn't respond, his silence a clear refusal. Grinding his teeth, the Baron raised his offer. 70 mana stones, but I can't give you more gold. Do you want the barony to collapse? Michael's eyes narrowed dangerously. Collapse? Did the Baron really expect him to believe that after being cast aside twice, he should return for a paltry 500 gold? Realizing his misstep, the Baron hastily continued. Fine. 100 mana stones and 700 gold. That's all I can spare. The barony's reserves are already strained. Michael doubted that. For a man who had ruled for over 40 years, the Baron surely had hidden funds. Still, he allowed the Baron to sweat as he mulled over the offer. Seeing Michael turn slightly away, the Baron's voice became more urgent. What about your sisters? Should they be married off with nothing? Fine, 1,000 gold, plus a 500 gold mana beast core. Manticore's core, 5th tier. Consuming it will increase your mana reserves, or you can refine it into a detoxifying artifact. That caught Michael's attention. A smile crept onto his face. Very well, that will do. Go fetch the payment, and while you're at it, bring Lincoln's body. We'll host his funeral here, free of charge. It's only right to see him off personally. The Baron exhaled in relief. It was a steep price, but far better than losing the barony entirely. The negotiation concluded, they parted ways. Any pretense of familial harmony was overshadowed by the gulf of mistrust between them. The Baron delivered on his promise. Ronald personally brought a wagon to Michael's home, laden with the agreed items. Handing over the goods, Ronald hesitated before speaking. Michael, he began awkwardly, scratching the back of his head. Don't hate the Baron too much. He's been through a lot. Michael barely acknowledged him, focused instead on counting the gold, mana stones, and securing the Manticore core. Turning to the wagon, Michael retrieved Lincoln's body, now sealed in an icy preservation spell. Placing it into a temporary coffin, Michael addressed Ronald without looking at him. The funeral will be held in 2 days. Tell my father to be ready and prepare accordingly. It will be a family affair. Ronald faltered but nodded. Michael sighed and continued. Michael's response to Ronald was calm, though his tone carried a touch of warmth. I don't blame my father. Everyone has their burdens. After the funeral, I'll head to the castle. Please look out for me then, Uncle Ronald. Hearing the familiar childhood title, Ronald's eyes glistened with tears. Ah, young Master Michael, you haven't forgotten. Please always call me that. Michael, uneasy at the sight of Ronald's tearful face, quickly turned away and began moving Lincoln's body into the workshop. Ronald's booming promise to return soon echoed as Michael disappeared inside. Inside the workshop, Henry and Clara were tending to the 5 bodies brought in earlier. When Clara noticed Michael, she looked up, her face lined with concern. So, you're going to the castle? She asked softly. Yes, Michael replied. I don't have much choice. I can't let the barony fall into the wrong hands. Don't worry, Aunt Clara. It's mostly for appearances. I'll find a way to balance being an executioner and managing the estate. I just don't want you to overwork yourself, Clara said, her voice tinged with worry. Can you really do both? Where will you stay? I'll stay here, Michael assured her. Being the heir doesn't mean I need to hover around the castle all day. I can train with the knights in the mornings, return here in the afternoons, and learn the administrative work as I go. You know how quick I am at picking things up. Clara smiled faintly and resumed her work. I do know, but still, don't push yourself too hard. No matter what, we're always here to support you. Michael joined them in their work, preparing the bodies for burial. As night fell, he planned to test the mana stones provided by the Baron. His thoughts briefly drifted to Alfred, who hadn't returned that evening. Grandfather isn't back yet, I see, Michael remarked. He's overseeing a funeral for the Corsic family, Clara explained. He won't return until tomorrow at the earliest. By the time they finished dressing the 5 bodies in clothing provided by the bereaved families, it was late into the night. Michael's stomach growled, reminding him he hadn't eaten properly. Over a hastily prepared meal, he listened to Henry and Clara talk before retreating to his room. Alone in his room, Michael took out the mana stones from the chest. The polished stones shimmered under the lamplight, their beauty belying their staggering cost. 1 stone costs 30 gold, and it takes 3 just to fuel a single ability? Michael muttered to himself, his shoulders sagging at the thought of the ever-increasing power requirements. The 100 stones he'd secured from the Baron would barely last 3 uses before they were depleted. Penelope, he called. Absorb the mana. Activation conditions met. Absorbing mana. Mana fully absorbed. Ability activation conditions not met. Function terminated. Warm energy coursed through Michael's body as the mana flowed inward. Satisfied for now, he decided to test his newfound power in the morning, focusing on the body of the eldest lumberjack among the corpses. Morning brought frustration. Michael had tried everything with the lumberjack's corpse. Touching it, lifting it, even inspecting it thoroughly, but nothing worked. Ability activation conditions not met. What was the missing condition? Growling in annoyance, Michael's eyes landed on another lumberjack's decapitated body. Perhaps he would need to sever a head? He hesitated before untying the stitches on the severed head, but even that yielded nothing. Ability activation conditions not met. More confused than ever, Michael sighed heavily and began re-stitching the lumberjack's head, apologizing silently to the deceased. Afterward, he went through the other corpses in the workshop, touching and lifting them, but the result was always the same. Chapter 13. Ability activation conditions not met. As his irritation grew, Michael's gaze shifted toward the temporary coffin containing Lincoln's body. He had avoided looking at it, unwilling to confront the mangled remains of the brother who had once shoved him off a castle wall. But now there was no other option. With a deep breath, Michael opened the coffin. Lincoln's body lay in a grotesque state, his neck torn clean from his torso. The sight stirred conflicting emotions within Michael. Though Lincoln had wronged him, he couldn't suppress a pang of pity. Steeling himself, Michael reached for Lincoln's severed head. Mana fully absorbed. Activation conditions met. Would you like to resurrect this individual? Yes/no. The prompt made Michael freeze. What's the difference this time? He dismissed his curiosity, unwilling to risk reviving Lincoln. 10 seconds elapsed. Resurrection option expired. Would you like to extract a random ability? Yes/no. Yes, Michael mentally shouted, closing his eyes. The familiar vision of a starry sky appeared, and a single bright star descended into him. Extracting the ability Noble Demeanor from Lincoln von Crassus. Would you like to explore the origin of this ability? Michael nodded, and Lincoln's compressed life story played out in his mind. Lincoln von Crassus took immense pride in his noble heritage. He considered refinement in dance, rhetoric, and appreciation for fine arts essential traits of nobility. Believing bloodline trumped talent, he whipped 2 servants to death for perceived disrespect and pushed his gifted younger brother off a castle wall. While fleeing the barony, he was caught and executed by Alfred von Wittelbach, his grandfather. Michael's breath caught. Executed? By grandfather? Something didn't add up. Grandfather? Michael murmured, confusion and unease blooming in his chest. Michael felt cold sweat trickle down his back. Executed? Lincoln was executed by grandfather? His grandfather's words echoed in his mind. I am the agent of vengeance and the executor of death. Alfred knew. He knew that his grandson Michael was dead and that his body was now occupied by someone else. The execution of Lincoln wasn't a coincidence. It was justice for Michael's death. But when had Alfred realized the truth? The weight of the revelation pressed heavily on Michael. Was he next? Would Alfred include him in his list of targets for revenge? Without knowing Alfred's exact standards for judgment, the uncertainty gnawed at him. Michael had only one course of action. He would confess and throw himself at his grandfather's mercy. Running away wasn't an option. Where could he go in a world he barely understood? And besides, wasn't he a victim too? The body was still technically Alfred's grandson's, so perhaps Alfred wouldn't kill him outright. Michael could only hope. Michael, is something wrong? You look pale. Are you feeling ill? Clara's concerned voice pulled him back to the present. Michael forced a smile, trying to mask his unease. Survival required strategy. No, Aunt Clara. I'm just worried about what to say when grandfather gets back. Do you think he has anything he particularly likes? Maybe I could use that to break the ice. Are you nervous about becoming the heir? Clara asked gently. He'll understand. It's not like you had a choice. Don't overthink it. After a moment's thought, she added, if you want to ease the conversation, he does love his pipe. Maybe you could prepare some tobacco for him? Bring it to him and start the discussion there. Michael's face brightened at the suggestion. Of course, his pipe. He could clearly picture Alfred sitting by the hearth with his pipe in hand. Why hadn't he thought of that? Alfred returned later that evening, his broad shoulders slumping as he removed his hat and settled into the armchair by the fireplace. He looked weary, and Michael's stomach churned. He knew why his grandfather was so exhausted. He had likely used those hands to take Lincoln's life. Alfred's sharp gaze didn't miss Michael's anxious fidgeting. In Michael's hands was a small box. What's that? Alfred asked gruffly. Michael stepped forward and handed the box to him. It contained finely shredded, high-quality tobacco leaves, an expensive purchase from the market. Alfred opened it, inhaled the rich aroma, and packed his pipe with the fresh leaves. After lighting it, he took a deep drag, exhaling slowly. Is there something you wish to say? Alfred asked, his tone neutral as he observed Michael. Michael forced another awkward smile. It's hard to talk here. Would you join me for a walk? Alfred drew deeply from his pipe again before shaking his head. Tomorrow, after the villagers' funerals. I'm too tired tonight. He rose and retreated to his room, the thick wooden door creaking as it closed behind him. The next day, Michael stood beside Clara during the funeral, clutching a handkerchief as she dabbed her eyes. The service for the 5 lumberjacks was solemn but well attended. A village clerk oversaw the proceedings, and compensation from the castle had reportedly been delivered. Alfred presided over the rites, his commanding voice carrying the prayers for the deceased. Michael watched in silence, his mind racing as he planned how to confess. You're the heir now, Clara whispered, handing him a small object. Show some sincerity. This is a relic passed down through my family. They say it brings blessings to the departed. Place it on the coffins and offer a prayer. Michael accepted the relic, a pendant shaped like radiant light, representing the Church of Radiance. Just as he held it, that familiar, eerie voice spoke in his mind. Would you like to absorb the mana? No, absolutely not. Michael shouted internally. He couldn't damage Clara's family heirloom. Following Clara's instructions, Michael placed the pendant on each of the 5 coffins in turn, reciting the standard prayer that everyone in the land knew. While his family followed a different faith centered on death and vengeance, the Church of Radiance was so widespread that its rituals weren't foreign to them. After the ceremony, Michael retreated to a secluded spot behind the annex. Once alone, he finally let out a stifled cry of pain. Chapter 14. You called me. Damn it. It hurt so much. His palm bore a dark burn in the exact shape of the pendant. The moment he had refused the offer to absorb mana, a searing pain had erupted in his hand. Shivers ran down his spine. What is this? Am I cursed? The memory of that grotesque woman from his dream resurfaced, sending fresh waves of fear through him. He resolved to investigate. There might be clues in the family's collection of books. If not, he'd have to look in the castle's library. After applying a quick poultice to his burned hand, Michael approached Alfred, who had just finished overseeing the funeral. Despite his fear, Michael knew he had to tell the truth. Alfred and Michael walked in silence along the forest trail. The only sounds were the crunch of leaves underfoot and the distant rustling of branches. Michael was the first to break the silence. Grandfather, he began, his voice steady despite the tension in his chest. Have you heard the news? My brother Lincoln is dead, and I've been named the heir to the barony. Alfred's jet-black eyes, inscrutable as always, fixated on Michael. I already know. It is your rightful claim. You don't need to explain it to me. Michael hesitated before speaking. But I don't want to leave home. I was thinking, maybe I could commute to the castle for training and administration. Alfred paused, considering the suggestion before shaking his head. Living here while traveling back and forth daily would be unreasonable. You'll move into the castle. Your uncle and aunt will accompany you to settle in. I'll finish my tasks here and follow shortly. A weight lifted slightly off Michael's chest. If he wouldn't be entirely separated from his family, moving into the castle might not be so bad. He drew a deep breath. It was time to broach the real topic. Grandfather, have you ever heard stories about people waking up in someone else's body after a near-death experience? Or finding themselves in an entirely different world? Alfred came to an abrupt halt. Michael nearly bumped into his back before steadying himself. Is that what happened to you? The unspoken wall of pretense between them shattered. Michael had no more room to back away now. Would Alfred treat him like a stranger? Cast him out? For a fleeting moment, Michael's mind raced with horrifying images. Being exorcised like an evil spirit, his existence wiped away by some holy rite. Then Alfred spoke. There's no need to explain. I summoned you. Michael blinked in shock, his head snapping up to meet Alfred's gaze. What does he mean by that? When you fell from the wall and entered a coma, I had only one option left, to bring you back. The ritual succeeded and you woke. I don't know where you came from or what kind of life you lived before, but one thing is certain, you cannot summon a soul that is not linked to the body. Whether your memories are from a past life or the life ahead, you are still my grandson. So don't be afraid. I will never harm you. Relief washed over Michael, so profound it made his knees weak. He was safe. The question of whether he was Michael's reincarnation or an interloper faded into irrelevance. Whatever the case, Alfred acknowledged him as his grandson. The two sat on a fallen tree trunk. Do Uncle and Aunt Clara know about this? Michael asked cautiously. They don't need to. Unless you choose to reveal it, no one else will know. And I'd prefer you live as Michael. That made sense. Having accepted his situation, Michael resolved to embrace this life fully. How did you figure it out? That I wasn't the original Michael. I can see through to the essence of things. But don't worry. No one else can discern it unless they've been intimately familiar with you. Michael fidgeted, tracing patterns in the dirt with his shoe. He looked up hesitantly. Can I still call you grandfather? Of course. You're my grandson. Who else would call me that? Alfred's voice was gruff but carried a warmth that made Michael's chest ache. In your old world, what kind of life did you live? Alfred asked, his tone even. Promoted content. 300. More. 8582152867 10. More. 418105139. 1. 7. More. 1794560. I was much older than I am now. An orphan. I never knew my parents, and I never married. But I worked hard and lived decently. The world I came from was more advanced than this one. No social classes, lots of advanced technology. I was a soldier, piloting something called a fighter jet. It's like an artifact that flies. My last memory is showing off some aerial maneuvers before crashing. And waking up here. Alfred was silent for a moment before asking, do you regret ending up here? Michael met his grandfather's gaze squarely. Not at all. Never. After sending Michael back home, Alfred continued his walk deeper into the forest. A rustling sound came from the bushes behind him. Mro. A small black kitten emerged, its emerald eyes gleaming. Its fur was sleek as ink, and it moved with deliberate grace. Alfred, why didn't you tell him the whole truth? The kitten's words were unmistakably human, yet Alfred showed no surprise. What truth didn't I tell him? Alfred responded flatly. He's Michael's soul, but not entirely. You have a duty, don't you? To eliminate the foreign entity. Why are you keeping him alive? Alfred raised his hand, and dark tendrils of shadow snaked out, enveloping the kitten and lifting it into the air. Eek! What are you doing? You can't punish someone just for speaking their mind. He is my grandson. Say one more word, and I will not be so lenient. The kitten flailed its legs helplessly before being dropped unceremoniously to the ground. Fine, but what if the foreign deity claims him? What will you do then? By then, it'll be too late. Alfred's voice was icy and resolute. I will seal her myself. Chapter 15. I won't help you, the kitten yowled. You're on your own. Binding me with that ridiculous contract was already bad enough. Shadow surged from Alfred's hand, menacingly close to the kitten. If Michael comes to harm while I'm away, the kitten whimpered, its ears flattening. Fine. But you'll owe me 1 gold coin a day, fresh meat for every meal, and 2 liters of milk. Alfred's tone was indifferent. You start once Michael leaves for the castle. Remember your duty. With its tail dragging, the kitten trudged back into the woods, grumbling as it went. Behind it, Alfred murmured to himself, I just don't want to make the same mistake again. Never again. Michael entered the house with an uncharacteristic lightness in his step. The world seemed brighter, colors more vivid, and even the air carried a sweet aroma. To be accepted for who he was, without needing to distinguish between his past and present selves, was a revelation. But above all, his grandfather had acknowledged him as family. As someone abandoned at an orphanage with no trace of his origins, even being able to claim the most common surname felt like a hollow privilege. Now he had a family, true kin. His father's aloofness and his brother's betrayal were minor details compared to the love and support of his aunt, uncle, and a grandfather willing to summon his very soul from another realm. Michael's heart swelled with gratitude as he stepped into the house, but an unusual silence greeted him. Uncle? Aunt Clara? Realizing where they must be, Michael's expression softened. They're probably working on Lincoln's body, he thought. With slight hesitation, Michael made his way to the separate annex. Despite the bitterness of their relationship and Lincoln's attempts to kill him, Michael felt compelled to pay his respects. After all, Lincoln had unknowingly left Michael a valuable gift. The ability, nobility's refinement. His body now moved with an elegance he had never known. He instinctively understood the art of formal dining, the nuances of escorting a lady, and even the rhythm of a proper waltz. If anything, Michael almost felt indebted to his late brother. The annex was abuzz with quiet yet focused activity. Uncle Henry worked alongside Aunt Clara, meticulously preparing Lincoln's remains. The sight of Lincoln's reassembled body made Michael pause. Clara's touch had transformed Lincoln's once terrified expression into a semblance of serene sleep. His severed neck had been expertly stitched, and his face was smoothed to near perfection. Michael joined them, assisting with the final preparations. The outfit provided by the castle, a frilled shirt and tights, suited Lincoln's scholarly and delicate features. The next day, Lincoln's modest funeral brought together the remnants of the Crassus family. Present were the Baron, Michael's father, Lincoln's full-blood sister, Elizabeth, and their younger half-sisters, Phoebe and Kate, who were twins. Michael silently observed the gathering. A family where siblings shared multiple mothers, where half-brothers attempted murder, it was the epitome of dysfunction. Elizabeth, as the eldest daughter, took the position of hostess in the absence of a baroness. Though she wasn't particularly close to Lincoln, her sense of propriety dictated her actions. The twins, only 15 and deeply sentimental, seemed detached from the somber atmosphere. Their limited interactions with Lincoln, coupled with their awareness of his disdain for their merchant-class maternal heritage, left them with little sorrow for his passing. After a brief eulogy, the family took turns laying flowers on Lincoln's casket. Michael followed suit, placing a rose from the castle's greenhouse. His solemn expression seemed to embody forgiveness and compassion, elevating his presence to something almost saintly. Even Elizabeth, who often harbored mixed feelings about her half-brother, couldn't deny Michael's striking appearance. She dabbed at her eyes with a handkerchief, seemingly more captivated by Michael than consumed by grief. After the ceremony, the family retired to share refreshments. The atmosphere was strained, their relationships as cold as the weather. Elizabeth and Clara were the only ones engaging in polite conversation. They exchanged compliments on attire and shared household tips while the rest of the family sat in awkward silence. The Baron finally broke the tension. Well, now that Michael is assuming the role of heir, there will be many changes. Elizabeth, you're of age now. It's time to think about marriage. When Michael goes to the capital for his formal registration, you should accompany him to find a suitable match. Elizabeth stiffened, her striking blue eyes narrowing. Her words, though measured, carried an edge. I'll maintain my dignity by keeping this brief, father. I don't believe traveling to the capital is necessary for finding a husband. The Baron frowned. And what options do you think this backwater offers? You'll never find a worthy match here. Elizabeth's beauty was renowned in neighboring territories, and the Baron held high hopes for a prestigious alliance. If there's no one suitable, I'll remain here and bring in a knight as a consort. It would solve multiple problems at once. Besides, Phoebe and Kate are younger. They have better prospects in the capital. The twins, who had been quietly nibbling on pastries, suddenly became defensive. Excuse me? Are you trying to get rid of us? Elizabeth? She's the prettiest one. She should go. Phoebe added, her voice dripping with sarcasm. Kate chimed in. Yeah, we know our limits. No way we're getting matched with a capital noble. The twins' sharp retorts reflected their disinterest in leaving their home and the safety it offered. They'd already experienced the judgment and condescension directed at their merchant-born mother. Meanwhile, Michael observed the exchange without a word. The Baron's increasingly strained attempts to foster unity among his children only highlighted their disconnection. Michael, watching from the sidelines, couldn't help but view the situation with a mix of pity and amusement.